So I mean, there's a lot of like evidence that from what I've gleaned from looking at the paperwork, it doesn't seem like this is something that Big U is going to be able to beat. I feel like if I had to bet, I'd say that Big U probably won't ever be a free man again.
Say, bro, what happens in the dark will eventually come out in the light. And for Adam22, the dark has been very busy. The carefully worded social media posts, the jokes used as deflection, the strategic omissions about what actually took place inside a federal building. None of it was ever going to stay buried forever. The light has a way of finding exactly what someone needs it to not find. And right now
I see why they call it the Fed quarters, bro. I see why, bro.
It is pointed directly at him. You see, there is a very particular kind of person who, when caught in the middle of something serious, does not lie outright. They do something far more calculated than that. They tell a version of the truth, just enough of it to be technically defensible, carefully framed to redirect your attention, and delivered with enough casual energy that the audience never thinks to ask the follow-up question. They control what you see by burying what you don't, and when that moment calls for it, they make a joke, because the joke signals that nothing serious is happening. A joke signals that the man making it has nothing to hide. And Adam22, Adam Graham Mason made a joke. On March 25th of 2025, federal agents showed up at Adam22's home in connection with the Big U RICO conspiracy investigation, a case involving Big U, Loose Cannon, Brick Baby, and a whole lot of other dudes Big U ain't never meet, and a federal indictment that had already named No Jumper.
Hold on, they showed up at your home, bro. I thought they came up to the No Jumper podcast and wanted to do the business or whatever the case is. I didn't know they came to your crib. That's a little different, deuce.
Platform in its documentation. Adam22's response to that visit was to post about it on social media the same day. Casual, almost amused. The feds came knocking on my door today, he announced to his audience, framing it as his first direct conversation with federal agents, positioning himself as someone who had simply been visited rather than someone who had been sought out. Within 24 to 48 hours, the interviews and write-ups followed, and the narrative was already set. Adam22 had been approached. It was unexpected, and that was basically his whole story. Except that is not the whole story, not even close. Let's start with what actually happened at that door, because understanding the mechanics of a federal knock and talk is the first step to understanding why everything Adam22 said about it was constructed to mislead without technically being a lie. When federal agents show up unannounced at someone's residence, it is almost never because they are simply in the neighborhood. It is a deliberate investigation.
So that's damn near CIA tactics right there, bro. And you know what they say? A genius can play dumb, but a dummy can't play smart, bro. So for you to be that calculated in this situation, right, and then try to act oblivious in others makes no sense, bro. Are you smart or are you dumb? You know what I'm saying?
Tactic. It is designed to catch the target off guard before they have had time to consult an attorney, before they have had time to coordinate a narrative, before the pressure of a federal badge at the door has worn off enough for them to think clearly about what they should and should not say. Agents know that most people will not slam the door on a federal badge. That pressure is the entire point. The knock and talk is not a courtesy call. It is an intelligence gathering tool disguised as one. What the knock and talk is not, and this is the part Adam22 counting on his audience not knowing, is a debriefing. These are two entirely different things that happen in two entirely different contexts and produce two entirely different kinds of information for federal prosecutors. When Adam22 told the world the feds came to his door and implied that was the primary nature of his contact with federal authorities, he was using that knock and talk as his shield for what came after it. Because what came after it did not happen on this couch. Federal debriefing, also known as a proffer session, does not happen at someone's home. It does not happen informally. It happens in a controlled, documented setting, a U.S.
And how convenient of you to leave them details out, 22. You know what I'm saying, bro? This nigga got Big U elbow, bro.
Attorney's office, a federal building, a secure law enforcement facility. So when Adam22 didn't show up for no jumper news and he and WAC 100 was running some stupid bullshit play, what he was really doing was being debriefed. And in these debriefings, your attorney is present. A proffer agreement document is signed beforehand, a written document outlining the terms of what can and cannot be used against you from what you say in that room. Everything is structured. Everything is on record within that session. Nobody with direct ties to a federal RICO indictment gets debriefed on their living room couch. And any person with actual working knowledge of how the federal system operates knows that the moment they hear someone try to frame it that way. So why did Adam22 tell the story the way he told it? That was not confusion. It was not exaggeration. It was a calc.
You know, you gotta be a diabolical motherfucker, bro, to be outside the federal building on Brick Baby birthday, having a birthday celebration, knowing you infidel, knowing you working with them people, bro.
With a very specific objective. Once No Jumper's platform surfaced in the documentation of Big U's federal indictment, there was no version of reality where federal agents were not going to make contact with Adam22 in some capacity. This is not speculation. This is standard federal procedure. You identify everyone connected to the enterprise being investigated, and you make contact. Adam22 knew that contact was either coming or had already happened. His problem was that he needed to acknowledge it publicly, because denying it entirely would be far more dangerous once the truth came out, without allowing the street-facing interpretation of that contact to be that he sat down with the government, signed a proffer agreement, and talked. The difference between two things being approached versus participating is not a minor distinction in the world Adam22 operates in. It's the entire distinction. It is the difference between being a podcast host who happen to have some of the wrong.
So I wonder how them dudes feel now, knowing that Adam22 is actively working with the feds, bro. And you know the background that some of y'all come from, but y'all up there politicking with blood. You think, is it cool or what? Like,
people on this show, and being someone who walked into a federal building with a lawyer and provided information to prosecutors building a RICO case. He framing the story as agents showing up at his house casually, unsolicited on their terms rather than his, allowed him to occupy the first category publicly, while the reality of what actually occurred remained in the second. Adam got in front of that narrative before the narrative got in front of him, and he topped it off with a joke, because nothing disarms public suspicion faster than a man who appears unbothered.
When they showed up, I was wearing a red Nike Tech. Not exactly the definition of fresh. I got a crazy update. I'm going to do the Good Diligent podcaster thing, and I'm going to save it for tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Now let's talk about the grand jury subpoena, because the knock and talk and the debriefing are only part of this story. The part that carries the most weight going forward, the part that Adam22 has been conspicuously quiet about in terms of his implications. The subpoena to appear before a grand jury. A grand jury subpoena is not an invitation. It is a legal compulsion. You do not decline a federal grand jury subpoena without facing contempt of court charges. Prosecutors issue that subpoena to someone connected to a RICO case for specific reasons that are rooted in exactly where the investigation stands at the moment. They need someone with direct knowledge of the defendant's actions, or someone who was highly involved with or extremely close to someone who was. They need someone who can confirm meetings. They need someone who can confirm off-camera conversations, communications, and transactions. They need someone who was present during alleged acts of the conspiracy, or who had documented contact with the people accused of being a part of it. And this is the part that should make Adam genuinely uncomfortable. They subpoena a prior witness specifically to see whether that person's story changes once they're under oath, because lying to federal agents during an informal interview is a crime. Lying to a grand jury is perjury. The stakes are not the same, and prosecutors know that the elevation of stakes as a way of producing more complete information from people who were previously selective about what they shared. And I'm gonna tell you this here.
See, now this made me look at the loose cannon phone call and the No Jumper a little bit different, bro. It do, bro.
100% all facts. There is no motion. There is no legal proceeding. There is nothing that your attorney can file to get on record the people who appeared in front of the grand jury. That shit ain't happening. All facts. Here is why the timing of that subpoena matters, and why it is not a coincidence. In large RICO and conspiracy cases, prosecutors routinely return to the grand jury right before filing the superseding indictment. A superseding indictment is not a separate case. It is prosecutors replacing the original indictment with an expanded version that can add new defendants, new charges, a broader conspiracy timeline, and additional racketeering acts. So when you see the fake loose cannon calling in the no jumper, best believe you me, the feds are allowing him to do that. This type of behavior furthers the investigation into the case. This is not just him trying to clout chase, this is him working with the feds. Believe that. Now,
like I say, bro, that's why I see why they say it's the Fed quarters, bro. You have talking about, I see, bro.
Back to the topic. It is the federal government saying we have more now than we had when we started. We're going to reflect that in formal charges before they file that superseding indictment. Then they go back to their witnesses. They put prior statements under oath. They use that grand jury testimony to corroborate cooperating witnesses, to strengthen the evidentiary record, and to ensure that everything the expanded indictment relies on is documented and defensible. A subpoena landing right before a superseding indictment is not a random thing like they saying on the internet. It is the system operating exactly as designed. And here is what this means for Adam22 specifically. He documented contact with federal agents, is present in the investigation record of this case, his platform's appearance in the indictment documentation, proffer session that did not happen on his couch like he said. All of that has a very high probability of placing him in a position where he is called to testify, not as a defendant, as a witness for the prosecution, but in the federal system, that distinction carries its own particular weight because grand jury proceedings are governed by Federal Rule Criminal Procedure 6E, which mandates secrecy around.
But just even trip off this though, bro. So they already got Big U, right? They pick him up, the Fed quarters and everything they got going, right? And with the help of Adam22, bro, they get some more compelling evidence, bro, to come with a superseding indictment. We got more evidence since you've been in jail. But they supposed to have collected all the evidence while you out. Not saying they supposed to, bro, but it's usually not likely unless they put a perk in. You know what I'm saying, in the cell or something like that, bro. Basically, what I'm saying is all this shit that's been going on the internet and Deuce and them, they have helped Big U to further get wrapped up, nigga. Make sure he don't get out type shit.
Found everything occurs inside that room. Who testified? What evidence was presented? What was said? Subpoenas, transcript. All of that shit sealed. Secrecy exists to protect witnesses from retaliation, to protect individuals who are investigated but never charged, to prevent evidence destruction, and to preserve the independence of the grand jury process. What that means particularly is that Adam22 can continue to perform casually on social media for as long as he wants, because the public record would not reflect what has already occurred behind closed doors in this investigation. Offer sessions are not filed as motions. Cooperation discussions do not appear on docket unless they result in a formal plea agreement as a cooperation agreement being finalized. Let me repeat that again. Proffer sessions are not filed as motions. Cooperation discussions do not appear on the docket unless they result in a formal plea agreement or a cooperation agreement being finalized. If you understood federal case law, you know there's several different types of agreements. All of them are not the same, and neither one of them play out the same. Everything leading up to those filings is treated as confidential negotiation. The only thing that surfaces publicly are the final legal actions, not the conversations, not the testimony, not the documented sessions that built the case from the inside.
So that's why he felt comfortable lying to us, bro. He knew he wasn't gonna be in the work, bro. See how you think he's smarter than everybody?
And say, bro, for those who you don't understand, we're talking about the grand jury, not an actual jury at Big U's trial. Adam22 is banking on that secrecy. He is relying on the fact that the audience does not know enough about federal procedure. Understand the absence of that specific filing does not mean the absence of participation. Let's be direct about what Adam22 actually did with his platform and why the shame attached to his current situation is fully earned. No Jumper was not an innocent bystander to the culture that produced the Big U RICO case. It was a stage where gang members, active and affiliated, were given microphones, audiences, and amplification for the kind of content that federal prosecutors have specifically documented as.
And I bet you it's still gonna be niggas who wanna go up there, bro, knowing what's going on with this. Niggas already know. He done already told he worked for the federales and he didn't assisted them or whatever the case. Nigga don't care, bro, for some clout, bro. That's what time we in, bro.
Evidence of the enterprise's reach and influence. Adam22 built a brand on ties to street credibility, on the excess that came from being trusted enough by people in that world to sit across from him on camera. That access was the product. Those ties are what was made No Jumper valuable. And now that the federal case has made those ties inconvenient, Adam wants to reframe himself as someone who is simply in the vicinity, rather than someone who was actively cultivating the connection for commercial gain. You do not get to build a media empire on the back of gang-adjacent content, then act surprised when the government comes to your door asking questions about the people you put on that content. You do not get the joke about a federal visit in a RICO investigation and expect the people paying attention to accept that performance as face value. And you do not get to strategically omit the parts of your federal contact that will change how your audience understands your role in this entire situation, and then present that omission as
Hey, and it's crazy because his name is Grant Mason, bro, and he's a master manipulator. You know what I'm saying? So what this say for all the rest of the street who be going up there participate with the platform, especially now that you know, bro, he really infidel. You know what I'm saying? What y'all gonna do? You know how they say shit be happening for you and not to you? This is one of those situations, bro, because it's like being a show. Now, on top of, like, we heard Tam the other day, she talk about how unprestigious the platform is and how, you know, prestigious platforms don't want to be associated with it. No Jumper is what I'm referring to, right? But it's just mainly how, like, certain people, they probably feel slighted, like, oh, I ain't never got invited up there, or this, that, and the third, and nigga, that's a blessing, nigga. That's the feds, nigga. The Fed quarters, bro. Trying to lie too.
Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Say ho, you can't be playing with that paper, ho. Nigga need that yaper, need it now and not later, ho. Ay, I need that cheese like a grater, ho. Don't play me like no cent, cause I never Captain Saber, ho. Yeah, but you can fucking be my waiter, ho. Long as you get paper, ho, cause shit, that's what the paper's for. Y'all niggas chasing dough, but what we racing for? But we ain't racing, we just don't know how to make it slow. Know how to